Welcome to Web Design for Beginners. In this course, you'll be learning how to create websites from the very scratch. The course is designed to take you from the ground up to understanding how websites are designed. If you have no knowledge at all about website design, then this course is for you. Even if you do have some knowledge, the course will help you to get more understanding on web design concepts. So we'll be covering HTML5 and CSS, and by the end of this course, you should be able to get started with designing your own web pages. So let's get started. So let us start by understanding what a website is. So a website is simply a collection of web pages. I like to think of a website like a book. In a book, you have pages inside that has information about what the book is all about. The same with a website. Now, a website can be identified by a common domain name. Now, you wonder what a domain name is. A domain name is simply that thing you open up your browser to type. For example, you can decide to go to Google and then you open up your website and then you type google.com. Now, google.com, it's a domain name, and that takes you to the collection of web pages that Google has for you. You can do the same thing by typing another address like facebook.com, Wikipedia, or even geekcodeplanet.com. So that takes you to their website, and then you can now browse through the web pages. So remember, a website is a collection of web pages that can be identified by a common name. So think of it like a book. The pages domain name is the title of the book. So how would you access a website? So one of the first steps is that you open up your device of your choice. It could be a mobile phone, it could be a laptop, or any other device that has a browser in it. So in the browser, you type the domain name that you want to visit. And then if you have internet connection, it's going to make a request to something called the server. Now the server is where you have all those web pages stored, all those files stored. Now, those files return through the internet into your device, your laptop or your mobile phone, and then your browser, renders those files for you, and then you begin to see that website, begin to see the information they want you to see. Now, websites are typically divided into two major parts. The front end, which refers to everything the user sees on the screen. And then we have the back end. It's not visible to the users, but it powers what the users see. So think of it like a power station somewhere that supplies electricity to your home. So the power station is like the back end. This is the part that handles logic for most websites. So for websites, you see that you need to log in, you put your password and you log in. Now, something that handles the logic that makes sure that your password is correct, that is the back end of the website. And the front end is all those things you see, the form, those images, all those refer to the front end. Now, for the front end, there are some things that make up the front end, or some things that you need to know if you're working on the front end of a website. And the first one, it's something we call HTML. Another is CSS. There's something else again we call JavaScript. And these are the major players when it comes to front end. Okay, when it comes to what you can see in your browser, these are usually the culprits: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now for the back end, we have things like PHP, we have Java, we have Node.js, we have Python, and so many other languages out there. Now in this course, we're going to be concentrating on the front end, which is everything the user sees, because that's what has to do with website design. So the very first thing you need to know when it comes to website design is what we call HTML. So what then is HTML? So HTML is just an acronym for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is simply a standard markup language for documents designed to be displayed in a web browser. So we need a web browser to be able to see how HTML looks like. So it can be assisted by technologies such as CSS, which we're going to be covering later on in this course, and scripting languages such as JavaScript. So knowing that we need to know and write this hypertext markup language. Now, what do we use to write this? What do we use when we are creating a website? So you could use any text editor. So that's simply any program that edits plain text. For example, Notepad. So I'm going to show you how that looks. So this is an example of a Notepad. You can find in virtually every laptop or every PC. Okay, it edits plain text. Now there is a difference between plain text and rich text. Now you might be wondering, oh, Notepad, okay, that means I might be able to use Microsoft Word or something else that I can just type to create a website. Softwares like Microsoft Word work with rich text. And what rich text means is that the text you're typing, when you're typing with Microsoft Word or some similar software out there, they add some hidden things, okay, to whatever you're typing. Although you might not see it, but there are some other commands that they add to your text. While a plain text is just as it is. So whatever you're typing, there is no such additions that would make things not to work. So Notepad is an example of a plain text editor. So you can use Notepad to create your website. But then to make things easy, we use what we call code editors. So code editors is they're simply text editors, but they have some features that makes writing code easy. So when you compare these two things side by side, they are the same text, but you can see in the code editor example, some of the things are colored, they're easier to read. Now imagine you have lots of code that you have to go through, so it makes it easier for you to read. For creating websites, we're going to be using code editors. There are several of them out there, but for this course, I'll be using an editor called Visual Studio Code. So now I'm going to show you how to install a code editor if you don't have one. So I'll open up my browser and I'll just Google for Visual Studio Code. Now that's going to open up a search result for me, and I'm going to navigate to the website of Visual Studio Code. You can use other code editors like Sublime, Atom, IntelliJ. Some are free, some are not, but that's up to you. You can use anyone, but I'm just recommending that you use this so that you can move along and follow up whatever I do. Okay, so in the website, all you need to do is hit the download button. Now, if you have a different OS, for example, if you're on Mac, you might have to click on this arrow and then choose your OS. But for Windows, you just go ahead and hit this download button. And when it's done downloading, I already have it installed. But if you don't have it installed, when it's done downloading, all you need to do is click on the file which downloaded, the executable file. Just click on it, and then that's going to take you through the process of installing the software. So when you open up your VS Code for short, you might be welcomed with this screen right here. So this is like your welcome screen, and then we can go ahead and create any kind of file we want. Now I'm going to show you how I usually set up my project when I want to work. Now the first thing I usually do is I create a folder on my desktop. Now the reason I'm choosing desktop is somewhere I can easily find it. Now I can choose to create a folder anywhere else I want. So I created a folder on my desktop. It just says Intro to Web Design. And what I'm going to do is that any file that I need for this website or for this course, I'll be saving it in one folder. It makes things easy to find, so I don't just go around looking for files here and there. So I have my folder up there, and then after creating your own folder and give it any name you want, and make sure that you remember where you created that folder, I'm going to head back to my VS Code, and then I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to choose Open Folder. Now when I click on that, I'll need to navigate to the folder I just created. So I'll go to my desktop, and then I'm going to look for the folder. I'll double click on the folder, and then it's going to have nothing inside. It's just an empty folder, and I click on select folder. Now what this would do is that it will tell VS Code that, hey, I'm working in this folder, and I want every file I create, every new file I create, when I want to save it, please default to that folder. Please help me put it in this folder, because that's where I want to be working in. Now, if I'm working on another project, I'll create a different folder for it, and then I'll repeat the same step, which is go to File, Open Folder, and then I look for the folder, double click on it. Remember, it's going to be blank when you open it, so double click on it and then click on Select Folder. Then it's going to come back to the screen. Now, what you notice is on my left, I can see the name of the folder, okay? Intro to Website Design. Now, it has no files in it, but if it did have some files, you're going to see those files lined up right here. But we're going to get to that. So I'm going to start by creating a new file. So I'll go to File, New File, and that's just it. Now you can see we have a tab here that says Untitled. You might still have this Welcome tab. We don't need it, so you can just close it by pressing the X beside it. That's if you do have it. If you don't have that, then that's fine. You're going to have this Untitled. Okay, Untitled means that I haven't saved this file with a name. So go to File and click on Save. Now, if this is the first time you're ever saving your file, any file you created, it's going to prompt you to give the file a name. Now, I'm going to give it any name I want, but just to make things easy, I'll call it Home, and I'll say .html. Now, the dot we put in computers and devices, anything after the dot helps the computer to know what kind of file that thing is. So anything after the dot is called an extension. So an extension is how the computer knows what kind of file that thing is and what kind of software am I supposed to use to open it. Now remember, we said that for front end, some of the three major players are HTML, CSS, and we can have things like JavaScript. So since we're creating a HTML file, we save it with any name and then we end it with .html. That way the computer knows that, hey, this is an HTML file. It will know the appropriate software it needs to open it with. And then also VS Code is going to know that, hey, this dude or this girl, whoever, is working with a HTML file. So let me suggest some things to make their work easy. So after giving it a name and ending with .html, all you need to do is click on Save. But just to make sure that you're saving in the right place, okay, you can see at the top of here, it says I am inside Intro to Website Design. That is the right place I want to save my work. So I click on Save. Now there are going to be some changes. At the very top, the Untitled has changed to home.html. That means that my work has been saved. And now VS Code is ready to help me out, to give me some hints, to help me to color my work, to make it easy for me to be able to read, because it knows now that this is going to be a HTML file. Now I want to look at what makes up a HTML file. We just created a HTML file now, but it's empty. There's nothing in there. So what are the major things that make up these HTML files that we want to start creating? What are those HTML building blocks? Now there are three major HTML building blocks, or three major things that you can find in every HTML file. First one is tags, and the second are attributes, the third element. Now this is in no particular order, okay? No particular order of importance. So let's look at what tags are. So let's look at HTML tags. So HTML tags defines how a browser will format and display the content. So when a web browser, a request for a website, these tags help the browser to know how to display content. So with tags, a browser can distinguish between what is HTML content and what is a simple content. I'm going to be showing you this with an example, but let's look at some of the things we need to know about tags. Now, all HTML tags are enclosed within angle brackets. All HTML tags. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, every tag in HTML performs different tasks. Point number 2. And point number 3 is that most tags come in pairs. Usually come in pairs, like in twos, yeah? So you have an open tag and a close tag. So I'm going to show you that every website out there is made up of tag. So this is Google, google.com. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to inspect. Now this opens up what makes up this website. Now you can see there are some tags here. You can see the angle brackets. You can begin to see those angle brackets. There's so many of them. Now you don't need to use all of them. You don't need to know all of them. But just having a look at this, it's already showing you that, oh, there are a lot of tags here. I can see lots of angle brackets. I can see the closing ones with the slash. I can see there's this tag called div. You can see div. There's a tag called style. Just from how it's written, you can know the name. Let's see if we can identify another tag entirely. Oh, there's a tag called script. Okay, there's a tag called text area. So when you go to any site, you can just right click and choose inspect. You're going to see so many tags. I can even go to the VS Code website, right click, inspect, and I'm going to see those tags. So you can see lots of them. So let's demonstrate what that actually looks like. So I'm going to head back to my VS Code and I'm just going to create a tag, any tag at all. Now remember, point number 1 says all HTML tags are enclosed within angle brackets. So for example, if I'm to write my name, I'll just put in an angle bracket. This automatically is a tag. Now the name of this tag will be called SOMTO tag because it is wrapped inside angle brackets. Now if I were just to type SOMTO, now these two things are different. Now this is a HTML tag. I just zoom in a bit so we can see. Now what we have on line number 1 is a HTML tag, is an HTML tag, and what we have on line number 2 is just a plain text of my name. So for example, if I'm to say, oh, anything I put in a tag, so if I have P inside angle brackets, this will be called a P tag. If I put L inside angle brackets, let's just type that correctly, this automatically becomes an L tag, just like that. So anything wrapped in angle brackets, point number 1 is that they have to be wrapped in an angle bracket. So anything wrapped in an angle bracket is automatically what? A tag. So the browser can differentiate when I type L inside angle brackets and when I just type just an ordinary L this way. Okay, good. Now point number 2 says every tag in HTML perform different tags. So I have 2 different tags here already. We have P. This might not be real tags. Okay, I have line number 2, something called L tag. Now this P tag is going to perform a different task from this L tag. There might be similar tags, but in actual fact they have different things they have to do. For example, this P tag could make things to look a certain way. This L tag could make things look another certain way. Okay, and then point number 3 says that most tags come in pairs, an open tag and a closing tag. Now what does a closing tag or an open and a closed tag look like? So I'm going to use my name again. Now graciously VS Code has shown you what a closing tag looks like, but now you can see these 2 tags. Okay, I have the first one, which is just like a normal tag that I showed you before, is inside angle bracket, and I have another one that has like a slash in it. So this slash signifies that this is a closing tag. So most of tags come in pairs, except very few that do not come in pairs. So let's say I'm going to create some imaginary tags now. Let's call it T tag. That's T. So T is going to have an opening. You can see the first among the pair and then the second one. And you can see the second one has the slash. Okay. That signifies the closing tag. We can type in between tags. Now what does that mean? I can decide to type in between the opening tag or the open tag and the close tag. Okay. And if I want to do that, I need to take my cursor just right in between here and I can type this is in, let's say, in between the open and close tag. Okay, you can see I have my open tag here and I have my close tag here all the way here, and I have some content in between the two tags. Now this is something you'll be seeing most of the time. So an imaginary tag, let me use my name to create an imaginary tag, and then I want to type some content in between the open and the close tag. So remember, if I want to do that, my cursor has to be just in between here. Okay, let's say it's at line number 1. If I type, oh no, this is not where I want it to be, so I just get rid of that and I make sure I come in between. Okay, in between there, and I can easily type this is in between the open and close tag. Easy peasy. So in this course, we're going to be doing lots of this. We're going to have tags and we're going to be typing in between the opening and the close ones. Now you can even have tags in between other tags, like inside other tags. Okay, for example, this is just an imaginary tag. I'm going to use my name again as an example. Now in between here, I can even hit the return key or the enter key to give a space. Now whatever I type here is still going to be the same thing as me typing in between the tags, because you can see the tag opens on line number 4 and closes on line number 7. So let me create another tag inside it. So I can go ahead and say, oh, let me put my channel name. So what's going on here is that in between my SUMTO tag, I have another tag called SUMTCodes tag. Okay, so you can have tags that are going to be in between tags, and you can have tags in between those tags, you know, they form like a structure. So in between my SUMTCodes, I could have another tag. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easy for me to understand, when I put my cursor in between SUMTCodes tag, in between the open and close, I'll just hit enter. That way, so that I'm sure I'm actually typing in there. So I can even add another tag and just call it tag. Oh, table, that's fine. So I did a table tag in between. I can even add another tag in between this open and close tag of table. I can do that in one line if I want. So I'm going to add a P tag in between there. Okay, and you can see that. Now it might be hard to read at first, it might be hard to understand, but trust me, with time, this becomes second nature. Like you won't even know you're doing it anymore. It just comes like that. So we can have just text in between tags, in between the opening and closing of the tag. We can also have tags in between tags, in between tags, in between tags. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to show you is that apart from having things in between tags, we can have things inside the open tag. How does that look? So let me create a tag. Let me use my name again. Created a tag. Okay. Now I can type in between. So this is in between as usual. If I can spell that correctly. Okay, this is in between. Now there's something else you could do. Something that may be required along the line that I just want to point out now. Now you might be required to type inside the open tag. And how do you do that? Look, this is my open tag, right? This one. Okay. Now I want to type inside it. So I'll go after the word itself here. I'm saying I'm still within the angle bracket. I hit a space and I say, let me just type something. Now you're going to be seeing this a lot. It might look confusing now, but just bear with me. I'll explain much later. We're going to do this much later. Okay, but I just want to show it to you now. Now I typed inside the open tag. Okay, I typed something inside the open tag and I typed something in between the open and close tags. Now your browser is going to understand all of this differently. Okay, it's going to understand what's in between differently. It's going to understand the tag itself, the tags itself, right? Which is the SUMTO tag. It's also going to understand what we type inside the open tag of a tag. Okay, well, that might sound confusing now, but I just want you to know that. Okay, let's just get rid of all of this and just leave our blank document. So we're gonna start by just typing some tags, just so that we get used to saving and seeing what we do in a browser. I'm going to take a different approach. We're going to just dive straight into a tag called heading tags. Okay. Now a heading tag is what we use to create a big heading. Like when you read the newspaper, you see those headlines. That's what a heading tag does for you. And how do you create a heading tag? It's very simple. All right, H1, and you can see I have them in angle brackets. Now the shortcut to do that in VS Code is H1. Just type the word itself and hit your tab key. It will automatically put those things you typed in a tag. It have open and a close one. Now you can see I have my H1. In between, I can say this is a heading 1 tag. I might be wondering, oh, why is it not heading 1? Why is it just abbreviated to H1? Some tags are like that. Instead of typing the whole thing, they have been abbreviated to make it easy. So this is a H1 tag. Now, if we have H1, I'm sure you must have started thinking, oh, we have H1, that means we might have H2. If you thought so, you're right. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Okay, so among our heading tags, we have 6 different ones from H1 to H6. So with this, we just type. Now I want you to go ahead and do this. I want you to go ahead and type this. Do your H1 and then type something in between the tag and make sure that it is closed. So when you're done typing, I want you to save. So you can pause the video, type. When you're done typing, save. So now you've saved your work. We want to see what it looks like in the browser. I want to see what are we been doing? How is it going to look like a web page? Remember, we need to view our web page, or whenever a user is using or wants to view a website, they go to their browser. Okay, they don't go to VS Code because they don't see all this stuff. Yeah. So let us go and see what we've done in a browser. So I'm going to minimize my VS Code. Also going to minimize this slide, and then I'm going to head back to that folder I created. So I'll open that folder and I'll see that file. It says home, just says home. Now when you double click on that file, guess what? Your browser is going to open it up. So I'm just going to open with Chrome. Now you can see it says this is a header 1 tag. So you can see it opens up in a browser. Your browser understands. Now what your browser did, it made it look big, it made it look bold, it made it look black. Now let us do something else and see how it's also going to look. So I'm head back to my VS Code, and then I want to go to a new line. So I'll make sure that my cursor it's at the end. Okay, your cursor might still be at the center or somewhere else here. So just take it to the end and click, and then hit your enter key or your return key. Now I'm gonna add the H2 tag. Easy H2, I hit tab, and that would add the open tag and the close tag. I'm gonna type in between and say this is the heading 2 tag. I'm changing this to there. I'm going to save. Now, since I've already opened this in a browser, I'll just head back to the browser and then I'll hit refresh. So what you notice is that H1 looks bigger than H2. Okay, you can see H2 looks a little bit smaller. It is still bold, it is still big, just like you have a newspaper, like a headline. Okay, so let's see how H3, H4, H5, H6 looks like. So I'm going to go back to my VS Code. Remember, I need to go to a new line, so I'll hit enter. I'll say H3. This is the heading 3 tag. I'll do the same thing for H4. This is the heading 4 tag. H5. And then the last one, this is the heading 6 tag. Now don't forget to save. Now one of the quickest way that I know that I've not saved my work is that you're going to see this dot. There's a dot beside the name of your file. So immediately you save, that dot disappears. So I'll go to file and hit on save, or I can use the shortcut of Ctrl S. So Ctrl S, it's going to save. You can see the dot is gone. Now when I head back to my browser and refresh, you can see I have those 6 different headers. So I want you to do this exercise. Have your 5 tags written out this way, save them, and have a look at what it looks like in the browser.